the Hudson Media Group studio. This is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, Top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, as well as your favorite Hispanic conservative. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Hoping you'll have a wonderful start to your week. Ladies and gentlemen, happy December. We are wrapping up filming for 2022 as we speak, and certainly I want to thank you all for being such devoted followers and supporters of Talking Politics throughout this year, and I'll continue bringing you insightful commentary and certainly thoughtful dialogue as we proceed into 2023. But before we begin, I want to take a special opportunity right now to pay homage and pay my respects to a very dedicated public servant, and that is State Senator Sandra Cunningham. Now, published reports, again, all throughout the state and even in Hudson County, which have included the New Jersey Globe, to Hudson County View, to Jersey Times, to everywhere else in between, have indeed reported that State Senator Cunningham is unlikely to return to the state Senate and will most likely have to resign. But here's some details regarding her story. Now, she is expected to resign according to multiple reports. She has served in the state Senate since first elected in 2007, and she is the widow, for those of you that don't know, of former Jersey City Mayor and also state senator in that district, coincidentally, Glenn Cunningham, who coincidentally died in office in 2004. Now, the 72-year-old state Senate president pro tempore is facing a severe cognitive decline and is unlikely to return to Trenton, according again to multiple reports, also citing anonymous sources. Now, Senator Cunningham was hospitalized as recently as October 4th at the Jersey City Medical Center with what was described as a non-life-threatening illness. She's been in the hospital for the past 56 days. Now, prior to that, though, State Senator Cunningham had been laying low in the wake of being charged with driving while intoxicated after hitting two parked cars in March. Due to a lack of evidence, the charges were later dropped, although she previously pleaded guilty to a DWI back in 2005. Now, Senator Cunningham has not been present in the state Senate since the legislature's passage of the state budget in June, which is required by state law. Cunningham has attempted to participate remotely when the Senate confirmed Attorney General Matthew Platkin back in September, but to no avail. Since her hospitalization, a Superior Court judge has placed Jersey City Attorney Matthew Burns in charge of Cunningham's personal affairs, as she can no longer handle them on her own. Burns was appointed after a close friend of Cunningham's, former Governor Jim McGreevey, asked for someone else to take control of her finances and other private matters. Now, the legal proceedings are still ongoing, folks, and court records are indeed sealed. So ultimately, it's not clear if she will be able to sign a resignation letter or if Burns can resign on her behalf. Meanwhile, the state Senate does have the ability to expel a member or potentially declare a vacancy of a seat if the incumbent is no longer fit to serve. Regardless, it remains unclear if and when Senator Cunningham will resign. Now, I really don't want to talk about any potential replacements or what the hot gossip is right now, but I want to take this opportunity to pay respect to Senator Cunningham. And next to State Senator and Union City Mayor Brian Steck, I don't know of a more dedicated public servant than Sandra Cunningham. Now, she's been very gracious with me, has always been a dynamite lady whenever we've interacted, and of course, we couldn't be further apart on policy and ideology. But Sandra was always very gracious with me. She was always very noble in taking time to appear on my podcast, which I started in March of 2017. And subsequently during that time, it's not even so much about winning awards, but it's been about producing quality content and exclusive interviews you don't get to hear anywhere else. So when people were struggling to get maybe a 5-minute soundbite out of State Senator Cunningham, I was getting 25, 35, even at times 45 minutes in a commercial-free interview with her. And she was always so gracious. Shout out to certainly her chief of staff, Milagros Peralta, for always making the interviews possible and coordinating and certainly, looking at her schedule and making something work. So I'm always grateful to Sandra Cunningham for taking the time to come on my show when she really didn't have to, when she really didn't even talk to a lot of journalists in the area. And mind you, folks, I haven't been in the game that long. I've only really been doing, opinion journalism for the last 5 years, and I've gotten really good at it. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but the facts are the facts, and the awards speak for themselves. But again, it's not about the awards, but it's been about the content and traffic. And the reason the traffic has been so good is because of getting amazing guests. Sandra Cunningham was one of them. She was always, again, very gracious to come on, to talk policy in Trenton. And listen, whether it was talking about decriminalization of marijuana, whether it was about legalization of marijuana, again, long before it was ever on a ballot referendum, in 2020, We were talking about it in 2018 and in 2019, and she was always, again, so open and honest during our conversations on my podcast. And for that, I am forever grateful to Sandra. I don't know the extent of her condition. I don't know cognitively how much she has declined. According to reports, it seems like it's pretty severe. So again, my heart goes out to her, her family, her loved ones, who I'm sure are going through a very difficult time, going to see her at the hospital, and certainly making time to, interact with her, if and when she's able to, communicate with them. So all I can say to Sandra Cunningham is, again, my heart goes out to you. I thank you for believing in my show, for believing in me, for giving me the time of day when normally Sandra Cunningham wouldn't give journalists the time of day. And it's not a knock on Sandra. She just didn't want to talk to journalists. She wasn't about doing these long interviews. But you know what? I found a way to make her comfortable on the air when she came on live and we were able to talk like two people talking at a Starbucks. And again, that's really a testament to Sandra Cunningham, to how transparent she was, to how genuine she was, and quite frankly, how nice she was. And certainly I hope that her condition improves. I'm hoping that she's able to leave the hospital. Not so much because I want to keep serving the state senate. Again, this goes beyond politics, folks. I'm more concerned with Sandra's health and well-being. And I really want her to recover and live, again, a prosperous remainder of her life. I'm really hoping for that, and I hope you are too. But again, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, again, my thoughts go out to her, her family, because Sandra Cunningham, again, wasn't just a dedicated public servant. She was a decent human being, very much like her husband, Glenn Cunningham. And all I can say is, Sandra, get well soon, and hopefully, maybe I'll have you back on the podcast. But certainly, without question, ladies and gentlemen, it is something we should all think about each and every day, about having Sandra Cunningham in our thoughts and prayers as often as possible. All right, folks, now let's get to some politics here. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court obviously is hearing oral arguments on a multitude of very important cases, but one case that really stands out for me is about religious freedom. And while the left and woke activists want to sort of dictate when religious freedom is applicable or when it suits them, well, guess what? Supreme Court justices are now hearing a very important case. So let me just give you some details as to why this case is so important. Not because I'm like this sort of crazy Bible-thumping Christian. I'm not. I believe in Christ. I worship in my own way. But I don't force my religion on anybody. But that's not what this case is about, despite what many on the left, whether here in New Jersey or nationally, will tell you otherwise. Now, the Supreme Court's conservative majority appeared sympathetic this week to a Colorado graphic designer who's arguing that a state law in the state of Colorado prohibits discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and that it violates her free speech rights by forcing her to express a message that conflicts with her closely held religious beliefs. Now, during oral arguments in the case known as 303 Creative LLC versus Elenis, the court seemed to move closer to resolving a question it had left unanswered since 2018, when it narrowly ruled in favor of a Colorado baker who refused to make a cake for a same-sex wedding. Whether states like Colorado can, in applying their anti-discrimination laws, compel an artist to express a message that they disagree with. Now, while the court's conservative majority appeared prepared to find that Colorado cannot force web designer Laurie Smith to create websites for same-sex weddings, several recognize that there are differences between artists who are conveying a message and vendors selling goods and services in the marketplace. Quote, according to Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the case comes down to a fairly narrow question of how do you characterize website designers? Are they more like the restaurants and the jewelers and the tailors? Or are they more like the publishing houses and other free speech analogs that are raised on the other side? Justice Amy Coney Barrett told Kristen Wagner, who argued the case on behalf of Smith, that she was on, quote, strongest ground when talking about the uniqueness of the websites that Smith makes and works on, and also that goes into creating them. Quote, it's about the message, according to Justice Barrett, after posing a hypothetical scenario to Wagner, focused on whether Smith would design a website for a heterosexual couple getting married after divorcing other people. Wagner said Smith likely would not. Now, Smith, who started her company, 303 Creative, roughly a decade ago, says her religious beliefs prevent her from creating custom websites for any same-sex wedding. But her stance could violate Colorado's public accommodation law, which prohibits businesses open to the public from refusing service because of sexual orientation and announcing their intent to do so. Smith, in turn, though, argued the law violates her First Amendment rights since the state is forcing her to express a message that she disagrees with, which she's right about. Wagner told the court that Smith's speech has been chilled for 6 years, as she has put on hold plans to expand her business to create custom websites for weddings while her court battle does indeed play out. Now, the dispute before the U.S. Supreme Court pits the First Amendment right to free speech against LGBTQ rights and state laws designed to protect from discrimination, a conflict that the court has been asked to address before, but has declined to definitively resolve. Now, the complicating fact here is not that it's not a hotel. This is not a restaurant. This is not a riverboat or a train, according to Justice Clarence Thomas. He said, I'm interested in the intersection of public accommodation, law, and speech. Now, the court's 3 liberal justices, Elena Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Sonia Sotomayor, expressed deep concerns about whether exempting Smith from Colorado's public accommodation law would open the door to businesses denying services on the basis of race, ethnicity, or disability if the court does indeed rule in her favor. Jackson, the newest member of the Supreme Court and the first black female justice, wondered whether a photographer seeking to depict Christmas scenes from the film It's a Wonderful Life could limit their photography to only white children. Sotomayor echoed that sentiment by saying, what about people who don't believe in interracial marriage and people who believe that disabled people shouldn't get married? They also questioned Wagner about whether the website should be considered Smith's speech or that of her clients. Quote, I keep looking at all of the mock-ups and all of them relate to what a couple is doing, Sotomayor mentioned, referencing examples to Smith's work. I don't understand how, is this your story or it's their story? Now, Wagner, who heads the group Alliance Defending Freedom, replied that the speech is still Smith's, comparing her service to the work of a newspaper editor or a ghostwriter. What matters is that the objection is that the speaker is being asked to create. If you don't believe they should be telling their story and what they're asking you to do is tell their story, then you don't have to do that. But several of the conservative justices sought to highlight distinctions between objections based on message and status. Neil Gorsuch went on to say, quote, we have an individual who says she will sell and does sell to everyone, all manner of websites, but she won't sell a website that requires her to express her view about marriage that she finds offensive to her religious beliefs. What's the difference between the 2 cases? I'm struggling to understand. Folks, and again, it's a very interesting story, but here at the heart of the matter, this is what I'm going to break it down for you. And this is as simple as I possibly can, okay? This is just another attempt to vilify and crucify Christians. Because it seems that when it comes to LGBTQ rights, it seems like Christians are always under the microscope. Here's a newsflash. If you're a practicing Muslim or a practicing Jew, okay, guess what? You're not going to be very accommodating of people who are seeking same-sex marriage and ultimately not very sympathetic towards the LGBTQ community, okay? Those are the facts. That's not me being anti-Semitic or Islamophobic. No, folks, those are the truth. If you talk to anyone who has deeply rooted beliefs within Islam and Judaism, just like in Catholicism and Christianity, they're going to have a religious objection to what same-sex marriage represents and ultimately elements about the LGBTQ community. Again, folks, it doesn't make them bigoted. It doesn't make them discriminatory or homophobes or transphobes. It's just their deeply religious beliefs. Now, I'm someone, again, I'm not overly religious. I'm more spiritual. I believe in Christ. I worship every day in the privacy of my own home. I wake up. I thank the Lord for, again, giving me another day. And when I go to bed, I say, Lord, thank you for this day. I hope to wake up to another one tomorrow. That's how I worship. I don't force it on anybody. I'm not some religious Bible thumper. But again, folks, it's my way of practicing religion. And guess what? For this web designer, that's her way. And it's not the Supreme Court, full of conservative Nazis and, homophobes and transphobes and people that are bigots. No, ladies and gentlemen, either you believe in religious freedom or you don't. Because I bet you anything, folks, if you talk to anyone within the Hasidic community, anyone who is a devout Muslim, they object to the LGBT community as well. You watching the World Cup, folks? Watch the World Cup and watch what's going on in society there in Qatar and other parts of the Middle East. Okay? Now, again, we don't criminalize homosexuality like those parts of the world do. All right? But when it comes to this web designer, see, this is the problem, folks, with the woke left and the pronoun people and the alphabet army. Again, if you don't believe what they believe in, then, again, here comes the vilification, here comes the vitriol, here comes the scorn. No, ladies and gentlemen, you can have your religious freedom. Okay? Now, in this case, the Supreme Court, I would argue, and I'm confident that they'll rule in her favor because it is violating her religious freedom. And I know some people might say, well, atheists and agnostic people don't really care about this. That's not my concern, folks. all right? Because when we're talking about religious freedom, either you're about it or you're not, okay? And I think that's at the heart of the matter here. It's not about this web designer being a bigot or anything else. No, it's not about that. It's about her being able to, again, be a business owner, very much like the baker who didn't want to bake a cake for a same-sex marriage. That's his right. Do I disagree with it? Do I think he should have just done it? I would have done it personally. I mean, it's profit. You're making another sale. But if that's what he really believes in his heart and religiously, that's what's in his thought process, then who am I to vilify him or to scrutinize him? That's not me, folks. And that's the problem with the left. They always scream about tolerance and that they're the most tolerant. No, they're not. It's complete garbage. They're tolerant of what they want. They're tolerant of what they want to hear. They're not tolerant about everything all across the board. Don't be fooled, folks. Don't get it twisted, because the left doesn't believe in that stuff. So I'm here to sort of break it down for you where, again, this is a very interesting court case. Not because it's looking to infringe on same-sex marriage and to discriminate against gay people and put them in camps or all the other hysteria that you hear from the alphabet army and the pronoun people, right, that they want to use and weaponize during election season. They want to weaponize it on social media and create all this hysteria. Folks, that's not what's going on here, okay? So to organizations here in Hudson County, like Hudson Pride, or statewide regarding state equality or whatever else, chill out. No one's coming after your rights, okay? You can still get married, okay? You have a right to get married and be miserable like the rest of us heterosexuals, right, that get to be married. That's cool. Do your thing. But no one's coming after your rights, folks. But again, either we believe in the First Amendment, right? Because it's funny about the pronoun people and the alphabet army and the woke left when they want to cite the Constitution, right? When they want to talk about the 14th Amendment and equal protection, right? And, you know, what it means, the Equal Protection Clause and everything else, right? You know, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? Justice for all. We get all that, folks, but understand that before we get to the 14th Amendment, we have something called the Bill of Rights. And in the Bill of Rights is the First Amendment, okay? And of course, freedom of speech is the very first sentence in the document because it's that important. But freedom of religion's right there. And I think that if we're going to be about the Bill of Rights and we're going to be about the Constitution, then we're either about it completely or not at all. You don't get to cherry pick, folks, especially those on the left and all you woke fools, all you social justice clowns, and all you other activist idiots. Guess what? You're either about the sacred document or you're not. You don't get to pick and choose, okay, when you want a virtue signal. Again, if you believe in the Constitution, let this woman have her win, which I'm hopeful the Supreme Court will do. We'll see what happens, folks. But again, I'm thankful for a conservative majority in the Supreme Court, and I know many of you are too. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now some local stories for your consideration. A special thank you to John Highness with the Hudson County View for his report on this story. Now, West New York Revenue and Finance Commissioner Margarita Guzman has confirmed this week that she will indeed run with Public Affairs Commissioner Cosmo Cirillo less than 4 days after he announced his bid for mayor in the town of West New York coming up in May of 2023. Now, Margarita Guzman said, quote, "I'm extremely proud to support Dr. Cosmo Cirillo in his bid to become the next mayor of the town of West New York. During the past 8 years, we've served together. It is clear that his drive, determination, and passion revolve around helping our residents and moving our town in a positive direction. As someone who immigrated here from the Dominican Republic, I understand the challenges our immigrant community faces and brings a unique perspective to the governing body. We need a mayor that will be accessible to our community and has demonstrated time and time again that he is more than capable of putting in the necessary hard work for the betterment of our town. I look forward to working with him and our entire West New York Forward team during the upcoming campaign." Now, Guzman and Cirillo both ran on the New Beginnings ticket in West New York, which was headed at the time by Gabriel Rodriguez in 2019, ousting then Mayor Felix Roque and the rest of his team in a clean sweep. Hudson County View did note recently that part of Cirillo's announcement was that Guzman was also expected to run on his slate. With Gabriel Rodriguez seeking a state assembly seat coming up in the new 33rd Legislative District, which will be headed up by New Jersey State Senator Brian Stack, his godfather and political mentor, Albio Ceres, a former 3-term mayor who is retiring from the House this year. Subsequently, he'll be finishing his term later this month and will be succeeded by Robert Menendez Jr. in CD8, will indeed be Cirillo's opponent. Ceres has not made his candidacy official as of yet and therefore has not named any running mates, though even if the other two incumbents, Commissioner Yolasi Yanez and Victor Barrera, decide to seek re-election, they will indeed be on his ticket according to multiple sources. Now, Assemblywoman Angelica Jimenez, who currently represents the 32nd Legislative District, which will largely become the new 33rd after redistricting takes place in January, is considered a long shot to run off the line and is probably another running mate for Cosmo Cirillo coming up. North American Commissioner Julio Marenco is expected to round out the rest of the LD33 ticket with Stack and Rodriguez collectively, leaving Jimenez and incumbent Assemblyman Pedro Mejia without a place to go on the line itself. Folks, I know Dr. Cirillo very well. He's a fellow PhD like myself, and certainly a guy who has been extremely supportive of my philanthropy. He's been a genuine friend and someone that, again, I've seen rise up to the ranks in West New York politics. So it'll be very interesting to see with this announcement. Now, again, folks, there's a lot of infighting here, and this has the potential to turn into a very bloody civil war in North Hudson. Obviously, after redistricting, we saw what's going on. Gabriel Rodriguez will move on to one of the assembly seats and will not run for mayor. Subsequently, the current representative in the House here in CD8, Alvio Ceres, will be running for mayor. Who's on the rest of his ticket, again, remains to be seen. Why they kicked off Cosmo Cirillo from the current line of commissioners is beyond me. I don't know what's going on there. Hey, folks, your guess is as good as mine. I've talked to a lot of people. I have great sources, and quite frankly, it remains inconclusive as to why Cosmo is not running. Now, if you're Cosmo Cirillo, you got to go for broke here. Now, what's interesting, though, folks, again, based on the current sort of commissioner form of government, which exists in the towns of Union City, West New York, and North Bergen collectively, is kind of interesting because guess what? Cosmo can get across the finish line, right? He's running for mayor, right, at the top of his ticket, and we'll see what happens with Margarita Guzman and subsequently Angelica Jimenez if indeed she will be running. But at the end of the day, folks, it's 5 seats. Whoever gets the top 5 votes, obviously elect who will be mayor amongst themselves. Certainly, Albio running, 2 other, running mates, they get across the finish line with a higher total of votes, Albio will be mayor. Cosmo, obviously, with his 2 running mates subsequently, they get across the finish line. If Cosmo gets more votes, and so do they, then Cosmo will be mayor. But subsequently, what will be interesting, though, is that I see Cosmo winning either way. I'm not sure if he'll win for mayor. Again, this is not a knock on Cosmo. Again, when you're running against an incumbent, it's hard in Hudson County. Okay, very few people have been able to pull off that sort of upset. We think about Steve Fulop in 2013, Felix Roque in 2011. There have been very, very few examples. Cosmo's looking to be the next upset story. Now, again, because he's already incumbent commissioner, we know he has a great name. He carries a seriously good reputation. It's very possible Cosmo can get across the finish line and still remain as a commissioner. Whether or not he'll be mayor, again, I think that largely depends on him being able to drag Margarita and Angelica across the finish line with him. Subsequently, if it's them 3 against Albio's other 2, then guess what? Subsequently, Cosmo could be the mayor coming up on July the 1st in 2023. But there's a lot to go through between now and then, and I'm sure that this election season is going to get hot, it's going to get spicy, it's going to get chippy, and that's for sure. Lastly, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your ongoing support of this program in 2022. I can't say enough about Pat O'Melia, the CEO of the Hudson Media Group. He took a chance on me back in 2019 when he really didn't have to. And you know what? I'm proud to say that I'm someone that has given him good traffic, good content, and just a good representation of what the Hudson Media Group is. And it continues to be the leader in independent media. And I can't say enough about his faith in my abilities, the exceptional production staff that I work with and have worked with all these years, especially recently. I can't tell you enough about how patient they are, because quite frankly, folks, filming can be difficult. There's a lot of takes, there's a lot of rewrites, there's a lot of stuttering, there's a lot of sort of mental breakdowns, which anyone can have when they're recording. So I can't say enough about how amazing the production staff is here and how patient they are with me. But more importantly, folks, all of you at home who continue to tune in every single week, whether you download it and listen to it on YouTube, whether you watch it on the Hudson Media Group websites, whether you watch it on my social media, I can't say enough because I've talked about a lot of issues that matter to everyday New Jerseyans, both here in Hudson County and statewide. Whether it's irresponsible spending in Trenton, whether it's, I don't know, what we went through during this election season, whether it's about legalizing marijuana, whether it's about decriminalizing it, whether it's about creating dispensaries and what impact that will have in our communities, and ultimately whether or not it's a good income and revenue source here in Hudson County, even statewide. As we all know, Trenton, whenever they bring in new revenue, they always find a way to spend it. Bring in $2, spend $3. That's what Trenton is notorious for. And sometimes, folks, I always go after the left and a lot of Democrats. And folks, I'm very consistent on this show. Okay, not all Democrats are bad and not all Republicans are good. Okay, I'm a conservative. I've always been consistent about that. I don't waver. I don't sort of, go where the wind blows. I've been consistent. I've remained philosophically consistent and always intellectually honest on this program. Not just here, but all of my media programs. Because you deserve it. because you take the time to tune into this show every single week, regardless of how you do it, whether you watch it online, whether you watch it on your phone, whether you watch it on your Mac, your PC, tablet, wherever. You're taking the time to show your support and your appreciation of what I stand for on this program. And I get it, folks, here in Hudson County, it's sort of a melting pot, not just culturally and ethnically, but also ideologically. We have conservatives, we have sort of blue-collar Democrats, working class people. Yes, you even have the woke left and all these insufferable social justice clowns and all these activist idiots that love to virtue signal, that love to bitch and moan about this is racist and that's sexist and this is discriminatory and this is prejudice and this is blasphemous and this is inflammatory. I get it, folks. Believe me, I put all those people on an island if I could and just let them rot somewhere. But unfortunately, we can't do that. But what I can do is be that guy and be the voice of reason for all of you. And one of the things that I've taken a specific pride in on this program has been the fact that I have stood up for you, for regular working class New Jerseyans, talking about topics and issues that you talk about at the kitchen table, in your living room floor, on the porch, during the summer, in the backyard, maybe walking your dog, talking to someone, wherever it is. I'm talking about the issues that matter to everyday people, okay? Not being triggered by statues, not weaponizing, reproductive rights and all that other nonsense that the left is predicated on here in Hudson County and statewide. No, I'm talking about issues that matter to you. And I'll continue representing you. I'll continue being your voice. I'll continue to be that guy that will stand up against the toxicity of the left in Hudson County and in New Jersey. The toxicity of all these social justice activists and all these woke fools that do nothing but just contribute to the decline of dialogue. I'm going to represent all of you folks, and I'll continue to do so. And the one thing that really I take pride in, and I know that because it pisses off so many people on the left here in Hudson County and statewide, is that you can't cancel me. You can't shut me up. You can't silence me. And that happened in 2019, it happened in 2020, and 2021, 2022, and now as we go into 2023, I'll continue talking. Quite frankly, for a lot of you out there, there's nothing you can do about it. That's our show for this week, and for this year, as a matter of fact. Check out all the great content brought to you by the Hudson Media Group at their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv, and also check out the Hudson Media Group on their YouTube page. Also, make sure you like the Hudson Media Group on Facebook, and certainly make sure you follow them on Instagram and Twitter. I'll have brand new episodes coming up, folks, later on this month and well into January of 2023 on the 7-time award-winning podcast, Talk on the Hudson, which you can download and listen to from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talk on the Hudson. We'll have some great guests and continue the dialogue and ultimately bring you exclusive conversations and really insightful commentary and all the stuff you've come to rely on since the podcast started in March of 2017. My goodness, how time flies and how the years go by. But one thing that doesn't go by me, guess what, is the excellence I continue to bring you every single week, whether it's on this show or all of my other media platforms. So always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always talking politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 100 Latino, and your favorite conservative, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, folks. Have a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all in 2023.